Let me try again with her. But follow up the conversation, no problem.
Okay.
And
Pedro,
for
do you have,
As you can.
Pedro, did you have more to say on that topic? Obviously, we know that brands are looking at digital assets and the importance of those digital assets. But with more opportunities to grow revenues, leveraging new technologies, I think brands are also starting to become hyper aware of tracking the benefits of leveraging these new technologies and making sure that they're getting the ROI that they expect when they invest in something. So
yeah, I'll probably leave more room for the panel to discuss, but definitely the push is being driven, let's say, by the brands right now. Of course, COVID did the part of accelerating, but the brands now that are used to invest, 65% of the total world advertising is already digital, but sponsorship is probably less than 10. It depends on what the source is, not even that. That gap is what we need to fill, and that's Horizon is bringing in. That gap is the opportunity now, as we call, is the money on the table available on the digital assets. So I'll probably leave more room for the panel to discuss on that as well, because I think it's relevant topic as well.
Xavi, what do you think, being one of the biggest global sports marketers in the world? How do you view digital?
Absolutely. I was kind of just nodding when Pedro kind of shared these numbers on kind of digital advertising, and I think also kind of live content. I think that the example that Rob shared and kind of how to bring new players, how to explain stories, I think that's the way fans want to be engaged with the brands. I think it's much more organic, probably kind of less high production value and kind of more real stories. And I think that it's kind of a combination of the speed that you could get with digital, the speed that you could get with live content, but also I think people kind of looking for more real stories, right? They want to know what the players are doing, how the athletes are struggling. I think that we have seen great content on kind of how players and athletes are training from home, and fans want to see that. It's kind of, all of us are struggling and they want to see how their heroes struggle, right? So kind of when you see, I think, for instance, around the Olympics has been amazing that, see, swimmers who were kind of, swimming or training without the pool, kind of, and people kind of wanted to know that and kind of share the pain, share the adventures, etc. I think that brands, we need to be part of that, right? So we want to be part of this journey and kind of share kind of the achievements and the struggles of athletes. That's kind of the type of engagement that fans are looking for.
Yeah, and I find it so interesting that now, even in Europe, that transition has happened, because I feel like for many, many years in Europe, it was very focused on the pitch and what happens on the pitch and the data around that, and people would get super excited about sharing data with each other. I mean, Opta was a client of mine for many years, and I know even as a B2B company, they would get a lot of engagement around that, and European soccer fans weren't as interested in those life, the life story of players, where in American, sports culture, that background and that lifestyle information, connecting it to fashion and music and entertainment and food, all of those things make a really big difference in the market here in the US. But it seems as if that is the trend happening also in Europe. Would you agree with that, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'd agree that the fans weren't so bothered about it. I actually think it's more that American sports has always been sort of smarter commercially in terms of opening up access to its athletes. And that's where certainly Premier League football is playing catch up in terms of that access. And now that So it
was more driven by the club than the fan?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now that the players, their representatives, can see the commercial return on opening themselves up, I think that allows us as sort of content marketers to open up a whole new door really to content. I think as Xavi was just saying about this, there's now much more of an interest in live content, and I think that's why you'll see pretty well every time I sort of go on LinkedIn, I see a new club has now signed up for Twitch, and I think Twitch, obviously making a massive play in the European market. But it's obvious why, isn't it? Because the average age of the user is 21 on Twitch, and every marketer out there is trying to get Gen Z. That's 41% of the consumer market out there is Gen Z. that's who everybody wants to engage. So it's the obvious place to be on there. And I mean, we've got on there pretty recently, but so's every other club. So I think everyone's just trying to figure out.
FC Barcelona just announced it earlier this week.
Yeah. We're by far certainly not the first Premier League football club as well either. I know that loads of them are going to sign up for it because everybody just wants to be in that space. I think sort of this might be going slightly off topic, but on a wider point about sort of brand identity, I think that's a big thing for us at Arsenal at the moment, and I think it will be across lots of sports clubs, because if you're talking about Gen Z, they are arguably the most engaged on societal issues, on environmental issues, and they don't want your sports club or your brand. They don't want you to just put a social media post out and just say, we support this. They want to see you, walk the walk. Really, they want to. They will follow up and see if your programs and your policies are in line with what you're saying. And I think that's sort of one of the big innovations I think we're going to see over the years. It's not a technological innovation, it's an innovation in terms of attitude of clubs and brands. How do you align yourself? Well, first of all, how do you define yourself as a brand? What do you believe in? And then how do you align yourself with and reach a cross section between what you and your athletes? So for us at Arsenal, how do we align ourselves, what we believe in, what our core values are? How do we create the best content with our athletes where our interests align and align with what Gen Z expects from their organizations and brands? And I think that's going to be something that we'll see more and more of, almost above any technological innovation you'll see over the next 5 or 10 years. I think you'll see there'll be much more of a focus on how you sell yourself and how you position yourself in terms of society and environmental issues.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Gen Z cares much more about how organizations are giving back to the community and helping the environment, much more so than in years past. And obviously they're not tuning into traditional TV. They often don't have cable packages. And so how do you find your fans and engage with them in the ways that they expect now, which is multi-device, oftentimes not on a TV, but on a mobile? They're more interested in gambling and gaming and gamification. They want real experiences, right? They expect personalization. So how do you connect with them in today's time? How do you bridge the gap between the old way of engaging with fans and what was expected to, the newest ways of doing business and, finding the right vendors, finding the right technology partners, because every brand will have different objectives and needs. So, how do you approach finding the right technologies to leverage that can help today, and then as well as invest in what the future could look like?
I can take a first pass at this one. We have been, using the playbook of open innovation, right? And basically is, as a big company, we have plenty of resources at our hand, and we are very good at certain things, kind of, product development, packaging development, etc. But we are very weak on other fronts, right? Kind of the digital front, we are not a digital company. Kind of wearables, we are not on wearables. And for us, it's about kind of creating these cross-functional teams, internal resources, external resources, and kind of together try to solve, or a fun problem or an adult problem, etc. So it's about collaboration. And to me, what is fascinating on these COVID times, that at the end, you interact the same way with your core team that with a team that could be based in Singapore, like what we were discussing with you just a few minutes ago, or kind of, in other parts of the world. It's kind of almost kind of a Zoom or kind of the different technologies there. It's almost kind of a playing field. It's kind of, you are interacting with people from all around the world exactly with the same conditions. So I think that in terms of open innovation, that facilitates things. If you are good on these virtual meetings, digital meetings, etc., I think that you could pull the best of each one of these resources and try to come up with products and technologies and solutions that are relevant. So to me, it's one of the good things of COVID is that it forces or facilitates open innovation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. In this sense, Sabrina, from the GSIC, we run different open innovation process. We are working with La Liga. Currently, we have the open innovation program from winter sport with the government of Andorra. We collaborate with Real Sociedad, Manchester City Club, and try to find the best startups who give solution for the challenge, no? Because one of our aim is try to reduce the gap between startups from sport entities or large company, you know, because I always say for the startup, when you have a good product, come across with money, it's not difficult. Ron can give you some data about investment, but you need organization can give you support and visibility and reduce the gap and create these spaces. And in this sense, I agree with Xavi. This COVID-19 situation and the digital transformation accelerate the process that you can access for the information. You know, the CEO of Microsoft say you can see only in 2 months the digital transformation that the industry waiting for the next 2 years, you know. And in this sense, I think it's very good for the sport entities create this space to work with a startup because can accelerate and facilitate, integrate their solutions in their club, because in the end, the digital transformation means create new assets, digital assets, and in the end, monetize with this connection in the fund. In the dreams of all the club, when you have the number of the credit card of the fund, is the best, you know, because in only one you can monetize with something. You imagine clubs like Real Madrid or Barcelona Football Club with more than 500 million of funds in the world. If you have access of all of these funds paid, €1 for something is the double of the budget of the club or the Arsenal club or any club you are support. No? In my case, it's River Plate from Argentina. But this is the idea. No? I think the open innovation process can help the sport entities, sure, and the brands.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. And then when it comes to in-stadium experiences, you know, this is an area too where I feel like a lot of European clubs are learning from US sports teams in terms of how to really engage and monetize fans when they're in the stadium, as well as, you know, leveraging the latest technology to understand how the player's performance can impact their career long term, making sure they don't burn out. So would like to talk a little bit more about that, and maybe Reese, you can kick off and talk more about in-stadium experiences.
Yeah. Obviously, the digitalization and stuff is not my experience, but yeah, for like obviously I worked with Arsene Wenger for many years, and the actual brand of football was the most important thing to him. He felt that if the football brand was strong, then the fans would continue to watch and be engaged with that. So that's why he felt the surfaces and the tools that the players engaged with was the most important. But I feel like obviously I don't work there anymore, but we had American owners, so we used to connect quite a lot with some of the other American stadiums in the group. And what I personally took away from that was, in America, it seemed a different culture around sports. So fans would, you know, they wouldn't go on holiday to, I don't know, Bognor Regis for a week or somewhere like that. They would spend a couple of days of their holiday to go to a sports venue. They would, you know, take a few days. They would enjoy the game for 6 or 7 hours. They would go and sit in the car park, drink and barbecue with friends.
Tailgating. We call it tailgating.
Tailgating, yeah. So it's a kind of different experience when you're in the UK, especially, and in Europe. I think fans 2 hours before the game, they're there in the pub or they're there in the restaurant. They'll meet up with friends. They'll go to the game. They'll moan about the game. They'll moan about everything in the stadium. They'll then leave the stadium, maybe have a drink, and then they'll start engaging on social media platforms after that and start being positive again and going towards the club. So it just seems a different culture process, and that's what I kind of wanted to ask Rob and Xavi especially, like, how do you engage with so many different cultures and so many different levels of, because obviously fans in China, they want to engage with the players, and they want to feel like they're actually inside the venue and inside the stadium, but obviously that's not possible. So kind of how do you cater to fans inside?
And that's where
the venue?
Pedro comes in, right, too, AI, but yeah.
Well, just to answer with difficulty, basically, when your audience is as wide as ours, you obviously you can't try and cater for every single audience out there. We just don't have the money or the resource to do it. What you can do is we're trying to depict the Arsenal experience for fans who will never be at Arsenal, who it just financially isn't possible. We try to do, for example, Instagram stories where you sort of walk all the way from Arsenal Tube or Finsbury Park Tube, and you show where the people are saying their programs, or the local pubs. We're trying to show a slice of North London, really, that will be totally anathema to some of the people who live in totally different cultures around the world. There's a really important point you made, actually, Reese, about how it is very different. I think US in-stadium experience is streets ahead of what it is in the UK, primarily because of that cultural difference. I think you've got longer to engage your fans in there. In the UK, as you said, fans tend to arrive 5-10 minutes before kickoff, and then they'll sit down, might grab a quick drink, but they're not allowed to drink it in the seats. So there again, in the US, you can sit there, you can have a drink, you can order, you can use an app, and you can get people to deliver food to your seat. You can't do that in the UK because of the alcohol rules. So that's a problem. I think, and any fan who's ever been to a Premier League ground will know you cannot get any connectivity at all within sort of 20 minutes before kickoff to 10 minutes after the game. It's hard enough to send a text. So the idea of being able to do any of the cool stuff that I'd love us to be able to do, that feels like a way off at the moment because of, Emirates Stadium was built in 2006, and even now it feels like an older stadium in the Premier League, which seems ridiculous when it's only 14 years old. But you look at some of the billions that are spent in the US stadiums. They're far out. The Ram Stadium. I can't remember exactly how much it costs, but it's in the region of $3 billion or $6 billion, whatever it is. But you've got more of an opportunity there if you've got that internet connectivity to be able to do really cool stuff. Whether that's help getting fans to vote on the big screen for the pre-match music, or even voting for man of the match. Once you've got that connectivity there, then it opens up a whole new world for you.
Especially with gambling, that's obviously a huge source of revenue, and we're happy in the United States that state by state it seems like gambling will be legalized, and that's where connectivity is obviously very important. So,
actually, Sabrina, maybe I'll jump in to add one thing as well, just to make a couple of quick points in the COVID context. Because we talked about connected stadiums, I think 5G is a big trending topic, especially as that rolls out globally. That creates so many more opportunities, which a lot of startups are tapping into. That's one. The other thing is to drive fans back into stadiums. They have the stadium experiences to be richer in a different way in a post-COVID world, which includes safety, security of fans. That's going to be a big factor. You're seeing a lot of innovation around air purification companies, movement within the stadium. That's another important theme. And apart from all the interaction that you're talking about, where a fan in the stands can, whether it's through betting or through just data overlays that's happening through AR or VR, enriches that fan experience. So as a result of 5G and with the security concerns, and then making the experience in the stadium really, truly engaging and interactive, that's when fans will come back. Until it solves like a much bigger thing, it's going to be difficult to drive fans back in stadiums, in my 2 cents.
right. Yeah, safety is obviously key right now with COVID still running rampant, unfortunately. So I know we have to wrap up in 10 minutes, so I just wanted to go around the room and ask each panelist to share what their thought is. What's the one technology that excites you most in the near term? What technologies are you pushing forward, and why are you so excited about it? How can the football industry really benefit from leveraging this technology? We'll start with you, maybe, Ron.
Yeah, maybe I'll kick that off as well. So a couple of things that we talk about as trends in our football tech report. One of them was the fan stuff that we just talked about, the in-stadium and at-home fan, and all the different ways that you can create interaction over there. I think we've covered that a bit. The other big thing that we see is at-home training or individualized training for not just the professional athletes, which is of course a segment that is catered to well, but grassroots level amateur athletes, all the great startups that allow you to train by yourself, collect your own data using either some form of wearable or a tracking device, which is either attached to your shoe or is placed in your shin guards. And because you're gathering data and there are virtual leaderboards, so I can compare myself and benchmark myself against how a player is doing in Brazil or a 14-year-old kid is doing in China, for example, if you're European. So it democratizes benchmarking and creates different ways of training at home. We've seen great startups like Home Court, which is huge in basketball. They launched an app for football where using your phone, using AI and AR, I can do a lot of very cool stuff for training by myself. So that's the second trend. I'll talk about the third one that we see in a big way is the creation of automated content. So automating media production. So having cameras which are installed on physical premises, say a pitch side, and again, we're not talking about the elite because those levels are well catered for. There are a lot of companies that do that. But the Sunday League footballers, the under 12, under 14 games, all those pitches getting cameras which automatically track the movement and action, take that clip and broadcast it straight away to streaming platforms, things like MyCujo, which is so big, and do millions and millions of hours of footage globally. And then not just broadcast the live match, but also then automate the creation of highlights and clips, because that's what people get excited about. It's, to be able to see your kids or your grandkids or your friends score a goal or get a red card or see a dog running across a pitch. Like, those are the things that go viral, right?
Yeah.
And so all of these automated broadcasting solutions, making all of this content widely available. Companies like Sport Total and Pixelot and MyCujo as a streaming platform I mentioned. So the three things: changing at home and in-stadium fan experience, personalized training in a new age way using digital, smart, connected devices, and the third one, the automated media production, and how the content distribution and opportunities it creates, because there's so much you can do with all that content, from sponsorship, from betting, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think Ron summarized it quite well. We are super interested on the second one, the at-home digital training, wearables, etc. We believe that this is a revolution that can here to stay, and we believe that will make athletes smarter about kind of their bodies, their performance, their nutrition. So for us, that's kind of a very sweet spot, and we are kind of making inroads on this space with the launch of the sweat patch that basically help athletes to self-diagnose themselves, etc. On this space, we believe that there is a lot, and definitely we want to play there.
Yeah.
So, but I think that the other trends that Ron,
yeah, I add one more. I think is the 5G connectivity in the stadium. To create in these more intelligent venues where anticipate the need that the attendees has with the second screen technology. But I agreed with you, Ron, in the importance that has augmented reality, the AI, the computer vision for the broadcasting too. I think this is the way. And improve the digital transformation, and the power of the data will be the future, because and it's very important to say it's not only the big data, it's using the good way this data and not becoming bad data. No, and I think this is one challenge, is how the sport entities, the brand, use the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I want to add on this, the data on terms. Machine learning definitely is the one to curate all of these and organize. That one we apply in our case at Horizon. All those content Ron was saying that is being generated, we'll be able, using machine learning, because this increase the numbers of content you're creating. For example, an average football club here is generating 25, 30,000 posts on social media per year. There's amount of information need to be tracked, need to be also evaluated to be commercialized. So machine learning as a subset of AI can also is a part of this technology that can help to organize and filter and group and pack this content to be used commercially, and that's, I think it's part of subset of what Ron and Xavi was saying.
I think on a different level, because my industry is much further behind on a kind of technology front. We're still most groundsmen are still basing decisions on feeling and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to the kind of tech innovation or data revolution, I should call it, within that industry. On a player performance level, like from day one, players interact with the surfaces, but we still don't use surface data within a player performance aspect. So I'm very excited for that, and hopefully being able to push that within clubs. But I also think clubs are being, on a performance level, they're taking a lot of data now. So diets, the mood of players, the performance data. So to actually centralize that in a central platform and make things actually tangible or actionable is also very important for clubs. And I still don't think we've cracked that for quite a way. We've got still quite a way to go with that. So they're the kind of things that I'm most excited about, including the surface data within that pool and making that data actionable.
I think, Riz, you mentioned that kind of the more data you collect, the interpretation of this data and kind of then the so what, that's super important. So anyone kind of able to consolidate and interpret this data, that's also kind of a very interesting space.
Yeah, I feel anyone can collect kind of data, but it has to make sense and it has to become actionable, and that's where the kind of expertise and all the AI and all that will really come into its own.
Yeah. Just to conclude on that, on data, you're saying one of the reasons of machine learning is not only collect data, organize, transform this data into knowledge, this knowledge into better decisions, and in the end, conclusions, better business in both angles of both for sponsors and the content side. So the transformation of data to knowledge, that is key, as you said, and that's why machine learning comes into the game, let's say, to organize, but also we still need to move with this layer of intelligence on this data.
And then Rob, did you want to add something? I saw your mute come off before.
Nothing to add that no one else has said, to be perfectly honest. I'm just gonna to me as a sort of working in content, the connectivity is going to make the big difference. If 5G is as advertised and works as we hope it does, then that opens up a whole new avenue for us as sort of content marketers. Data is, anyone who can give us insight into our audience is going to offer huge value to us, and going as granular as possible, really, because the more we know our audience, the better we can market to them.
Absolutely. Anything more to share before we wrap up the panel? Anyone? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We're in such exciting times right now because we are all determining the future of the sports industry. And right now, fans really need us to step up and provide those services and experiences that they're expecting if we want the next generation of sports fans to tune in, engage, and spend money on sports. With that, thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. Good.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Cheers, everyone. Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.